Heading into the home stretch of this year's session, the General Assembly has some particularly tough budget decisions to make after tax revenues came in under expectation. While some other areas of state government are holding the line, Rhode Island's part-time legislature is seeking $44.5 million to spend on itself next year, up 3% from what was budgeted this year and more than 20% from what the Assembly actually spent 4 years ago.
And the trend is that it's becoming more and more full-time as time goes on.
In a wide-ranging interview this week, Speaker Mattiello defended the Assembly's burgeoning budget.
We're very, very connected with our constituents, and we have to provide them services. And I believe that the public's expectation of government services, especially from their legislature, has increased considerably in the last few years.
$42 million, $43 million sounds like an awful lot to be running a part-time General Assembly.
Yes, but it's a very complicated operation. We have a TV, the television station within the General Assembly. We have the Auditor General. We have 2 fiscal staffs, one for the House, one for the Senate. Our IT people are top-notch. It takes a lot to put on the operation that we put on behalf of our citizens, and we need the resources to do that appropriately.
So what do you get for $44 million? The legislators themselves account for just shy of $4 million in salary and benefits, and the Auditor General's office also accounts for just under $4 million. Capitol TV, which now televises many hearings in addition to House and Senate sessions, has a budget of more than $1.6 million. And the Legislative Council, the research and legal arm of the Assembly, accounts for about $5.1 million. It is the cost of those who work in these divisions and the rest of the Assembly's 278 employees that accounts for $17.5 million in salary and benefits alone. The workforce includes 219 full-time employees and 59 part-timers. So how does Rhode Island compare? We went last week to Concord to take a closer look at New Hampshire's General Court, as it's called. While not an apples-to-apples comparison, the states are similar in population, and New Hampshire has 2/3 of Rhode Island's overall budget. $6 billion a year in New Hampshire to $9 billion annually in Rhode Island. But spending on the legislature differs greatly. At $18 million a year, the New Hampshire General Court's entire annual budget is about 40% of what Rhode Island's General Assembly spends on itself. Granted, the New Hampshire House at 400 members and the Senate at 20 are de facto volunteer positions. The elected members each receive $100 per year plus travel reimbursement that totals just over $1 million. But none receives medical benefits as Rhode Island lawmakers are eligible to do. New Hampshire's legislature employs only 155 people, 24 of them part-time. And unlike Rhode Island, they have to work full-time hours to receive medical benefits. More on that in a moment. We found that the Rhode Island General Assembly has 13 full-time and 38 part-time attorneys. Part-time legal counsel work primarily during the session, and many got their jobs through political connections. New Hampshire has 8 full-time attorneys and no part-timers, even during its 6-month session.
Every one of our committees has a part-time lawyer assigned to them. So start adding up all the committees on the House and the Senate side and look at how many lawyers we have, and you're probably going to get there. And we have some supervisory attorneys to keep an eye on everybody. So on average, I think that's how you're going to get to the number.
But here's what you might not know. Every one of those part-time attorneys receives the same medical benefits as a full-time employee. Of the 38 lawyers, 27 are taking full family plans at an average cost of more than $20,000 a year with varying copays. 8 have individual plans at a cost of more than $7,000 a year with varying copays, and 3 take a waiver, meaning the state gives them $1,000 for not taking medical benefits. That means some part-time legal counsel are receiving almost as much in medical benefits as they are in salary.
They get full-time benefits. And I'm wondering what you feel about a lawyer who may be making $21,000, $22,000, $23,000 part-time, but he's also entitled, and many of them take it, full-time family medical, and that's costing the state another $20,000, $21,000. What about that?
What we do as a General Assembly relative to personnel rules is we follow whatever the state rules are.
That's right, state law allows them to do it, as it does all state employees. Full-time benefits for a 20-hour or more work week.
Spending $41 million for a legislature that's only here 6 months out of the year. I think we can find efficiencies here.
House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan says the legislature could begin by looking in the mirror.
What we do in this building is serious work, and we need staff to support it. We can't do it all ourselves. It's a part-time legislature. On the other hand, when we spend money wastefully, seriously, it's not there to repair schools. It's not there to maybe do some technology upgrade in one of the departments. It's not there to stop tolls.
As a matter of policy, what do you think about that for somebody who's working 20 hours a week to be entitled to full family medical?
Well, again, I think we need to put our feet in the shoes of what average Rhode Islanders are facing. They don't get those kind of benefits. If we're going to offer them in order to get personnel in here, then we need to do it less frequently, perhaps. We need to make sure that the positions we're getting are ones we really need and that every single one of them gives value to taxpayers.
And while the next couple of weeks will be a busy time for everyone working under the dome, what about the off-season, where part-time employees are supposed to be working at least 20 hours a week to be entitled to those medical benefits?
I think a lot of people are wondering about those part-time employees. What are they doing in July, August, September, October, November, December?
Clearly, there's a lot more work going on while we're in session. That's just the reality of the situation. But a lot of those employees are really called upon, and they end up doing more work during a busy season than their 21 hours per week. So they accumulate comp time. And so in the summers, they lay foundations for January. They do a lot of the prep work. They do whatever else is asked of them, and there's always projects going on here. And they take their comp and vacation time.
We also wondered why the General Assembly has consistently budgeted for 298 full-time equivalent employees, called FTEs, when the reality is, when you combine the part-time and full-time employees, there are only 254 FTEs. 44 fewer positions than are written into the budget.
If you were looking for savings, isn't that something that on paper you could immediately say, well, look, we're only carrying the equivalent of 250, 274 full part-time, whatever, that you could immediately say 10, 20 people. Why do you carry that many FTEs through the budget?
We could, and maybe we'll in fact look at that. Probably FTEs are carried all through state government, and that's an area that I'm actually starting to look at. We're going to start cutting out a lot of FTEs that are not currently filled. The theory on leaving them on the books if they're unfilled is if you ever have the need, you can hire the person without waiting until the next budget cycle.
In her own budget, the governor adjusted the General Assembly's request this year downward by about $200,000. Morgan says the leadership may need to take a larger bite to help balance the state's budget and look top to bottom about who is employed by the legislature.
Once you have somebody on board, you like them, they're nice people, you don't want to get rid of them, and yet that's not our job to bring our friends in here, right? And it really is to make sure that every person that's in this building is fulfilling a job that's important to the people of Rhode Island, right? That they do something that adds value to our job here, that they're not just here because of who they know.
In Providence, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.